Good morning again. It's 9:31. A considerable turnaround because I was looking as if I was in darkness, when in fact, for the moment, it's a brilliant day out there. Right, we've got half an hour before we go to France, and we'll just take a look at the newspapers. Sip of coffee to get my voice into working order. And let's take a look at the newspaper headline, shall we? Right. The Sun comes up first. It says, "Show some respect," with poppies in the two O's of show and some. And its story, its headline, well, that is its headline, but the sub is, "Police told protect Poppy Day services. War heroes call for demos to be scrapped." The conflict between Israel and Hamas and its impact in the UK continues to lead many of the papers. The Sun's headline is, "Show some respect," with the O's replaced by poppies. It says war heroes have called for pro-Palestinian demonstrations planned on Remembrance Weekend to be cancelled, while the Metropolitan Police Chief has been urged to ensure services are not hijacked. The Daily Telegraph, much the same theme. Met Chief urged to ban Armistice Day protests. Is the Telegraph leads on the Met Commissioner, Sir Mark Rowley, coming under pressure to ban a march planned for Armistice Day next Saturday. Sir Mark has been warned by some of his own officers that protesters could clash with veterans commemorating Remembrance Weekend, the paper says. The Metro. Remembrance warning, hands off the cenotaph. The Metro leads on a quote from Home Secretary Suella Braverman saying the feet of protesters who try to vandalize the cenotaph next weekend will not touch the ground before they are jailed. Organizers of a pro-Palestinian demonstration planned for Armistice Day have said they will avoid the Whitehall area where the monument to Britain's war dead sits. The Guardian. Israeli strikes on Gaza intensify as violence on the Lebanon border flares. The Guardian focuses on the fighting itself. As it says, Israel at the strikes out on Gaza have intensified. I'll read that again because I read it rather badly. The Guardian focuses on the fighting itself. As it says, Israeli strikes on Gaza have intensified. Our violence has flared up on the Lebanon border. The Israeli Defense Forces have indicated its troops are planning to enter Gaza City itself within 48 hours, the paper says. The Times. Israel steps up assault on Hamas. The Times says that Israel has stepped up its assault on Hamas with IDF troops encircling Gaza City. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has defied calls from across the Middle East for a ceasefire and vowed fighting will continue until Hamas frees all hostages. It says its neighbors, Jordan, have said Israel is losing its humanity. The Eye. UK's National Security Council not prepared for heightened terror threat. The Eye says the UK's National Security Council is not prepared for heightened terror threats due to the Israeli-Gaza conflict. The paper says 5 serving and ex-intelligence sources say under-resourcing and disruption caused by the repeated changes of Prime Minister over the last year has left it reactionary to threats it should be prepared to face. The Mirror. Saving lives in hell. Hero surgeon tells of medics' amazing courage in the face of bombing carnage. The Mirror focuses on the story of a British surgeon who was trapped in Gaza. Saving lives in hell is the headline, as he praises the selfless courage of medics trying to help people amid the horrors of war. The Mail. Pressure on Tories over serial rapist MP cover-up. The Daily Mail follows up on its Sunday edition's story of an alleged Tory party cover-up for a serial rapist MP. The paper says Rishi Sunak is under mounting pressure to investigate the claims. Deputy Prime Minister Oliver Dowden, a former party chairman, did not deny the allegations the Conservative Party may have secretly funded medical treatment for a woman who told officials she had been raped by the MPs, but said it was not something he had authorised, says the Mail. That's badly read and badly written. Won't take all the blame for that. The FT. Sunak to unveil a bill for new licenses to drill more North Sea oil and gas. Wow, that's going to cause a storm. The Financial Times leads on plans by Rishi Sunak to allow companies to bid for new licenses to drill for fossil fuels in the North Sea. The scheme will be part of Tuesday's King's Speech, which sets out the government's key policies for the year. The paper says the announcement will allow the Prime Minister to contrast his pragmatic, proportionate and realistic approach to achieving net zero by 2050, with Labour's plans to retain a clean image, a clean image superpower. Right. I am not reading these things at all well this morning, but I'm not. Well, of course, in fairness, the headlines in newspapers and the text, for that matter, is written for the ear, not the eye. So I can't really blame them too much. The Daily Express. Brexit trade freedom boost for the UK economy. The Daily Express leads on a Brexit trade boost for the economy. Business Secretary Kemi Badenoch has blasted the Brexit doom mongers following a report by the free market think tank, the Institute for Economic Affairs, which says the report says UK goods exports rose by 13.5% to EU countries and 14.3% to non-EU countries, according to the Express. The Daily Star. Here we blow again. 4 70-mile-per-hour storms to batter Britain. A 700-mile-wide tempest sparks chaos. Remembrance Weekend a washout. The Daily Star says, here we blow again, as it warns Britain is about to be battered by 70-mile-per-hour storms, winds, and torrential downpours. It follows Storm Kieran last week. Both The Guardian and Times focuses on the intensification of Israel's bombardment of Gaza on their front pages. Well, that's a quick summary of what's going on. Not a very happy picture. Not a very pretty picture at all. We've got trouble at home and trouble abroad. And such is the nature of our societies now, that trouble abroad inevitably means trouble at home and vice versa. And so, linked as they all are, it is not a pretty picture. Not at all a pretty picture. Let's just take a little bit more detail on that, shall we? Both The Guardian and The Times focus on the intensification of Israel's bombardment of Gaza on their front pages. The Times says the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has defied calls from across the Middle East for a ceasefire. In its online edition, The Guardian says the UK government has been accused of separating British children in Gaza from their mothers, who do not have passports. The government said people require visas before travelling to the UK, including dependents of British nationals. According to The Sun, war veterans have called for pro-Palestinian marches to be cancelled. That's on Remembrance Weekend, with an appeal in its headline to show some respect. The Daily Telegraph reports that the Metropolitan Police Chief, Sir Mark Rowley, is under pressure to ban a rally on Armistice Day. His own officers are reported to have warned that pro-Palestinian protesters may clash with veterans. The anti-terror body has been meeting to brief ministers on the risks. 5 senior serving and ex-intelligence sources blame under-resourcing and the disruption caused by what it calls the revolving door of prime ministers for the problems that it's having in reacting to circumstances. The FT says Rishi Sunak is seeking to gain political momentum through his plans to allow annual North Sea oil and gas licensing rounds, exploiting a key policy divide with Labour. The Mail suggests the policy is designed to strengthen Britain's energy security and skewer Labour. The regulator, the North Sea Transition Authority, tells the Financial Times that any new licensing would do little to reduce Britain's dependence on imports or affect the energy prices. The Times says environmental critics suggest it is a gimmick, as recent licenses have led to the discovery of very small amounts of gas. The FT suggests Mr. Sunak is seeking to deflect from recent damaging revelations, including what it called the lurid claims about unnamed Tory MPs in a book by the former minister Nadine Dorries. The Mail says the Prime Minister is under a mounting pressure, with senior figures from all sides calling for an urgent inquiry into the book's allegations, which the paper began serialising over the weekend. The Daily Express leads on a study by the Institute of Economic Affairs, which the paper says suggests that UK exports have soared between 2019 and 2022. This is proof enough, the paper's editorial concludes, that leaving the European Union has boosted UK trade and Brexit is a success. Meanwhile, The Independent cites experts who suggest that Britain's departure from the EU is to blame, in part, for impeding the supply of some NHS medicines. The healthcare think tank, the Nuffield Trust, says that customs declarations and extra checks have had an impact. Finally, the Daily Telegraph examines a mystery facing some libraries in Cambridgeshire. It involves a popular children's book which invites readers to find Wally, who sports a red and white striped top on every page. The search now is not so much for the character as for the editions of Where's Wally? As more than 150 copies are missing. Oh, there we are. That's the that's behind the headlines, but still the most important stories. Before we go on to anything else, why don't we just check on the weather, because it's a concern to everybody. Let's see. Here we are. Right. Today. You'd think there was no weather with the way that it's handled by various agencies, but it is, I assure you. Okay, the temperature is going to the next 24 hours is going to hit 13 today. Still quite warm, really. We've got the sun all morning, according to this, and certainly so far that's been borne out. Only a slight chance of rain. Going to cloud up around 3 o'clock this afternoon, though, and it'll be a mixed cloud and a clear night in the evening, with the low not particularly cool, 8 degrees, and with a top temperature of 13. It more or less been a half decent couple of days. Tell that to the bonfire people who had real problems on Saturday night. However, it seems as if it was a success, so well done them. All right. What we're going to do? Oh, yes, we're going to take a more of an in-depth look at the newspaper headlines, or at least make some comment on them, because certainly there's some controversial issues here. For those who rely upon us, it's 9:49 is the time. Now, the Financial Times is bound to cause horror among screens. Sunak is to unveil a bill for new licenses to drill more North Sea oil and gas. And then there is a quote in there from an expert saying, let them print all the licenses they want, but there isn't that much left. But surveys have shown that there is a fair chunk left. And is Sunak right to give more licenses? Well, our expert, Stuart Dolby, has said unequivocally, we cannot rely upon electric power for a little while yet. So the only alternative is to use fossil fuels. So yes, we should be looking for them to last us through to the middle of the century. And that's going to be one hell of a row, because first of all, it's the Tories reneging on one of the policy statements made during the was it the King's speech? I guess, yeah, it was not the Queen's speech, the King's speech. Is he in pursuit of an all-green state? Now, it's not going to be, and not only that, but we're making sure that some of the fossil fuels so abhorrent to Greens are going to be pulled out of the ground from under the seabed as fast as we can go, just to sustain our demand for fuel and make sure we're not trapped by a war or pestilence or some other natural phenomena as we were this last couple of winters. So that's quite an important story. The Daily Express: Brexit trade freedom boost for UK economy. Now, it doesn't matter whether you are pro or again. The fact is, Brexit happened. It is here. And if you want to work towards reversing that, or simply being a sideline critic, by all means. If you're an activist, you may want to say, hang on, what are we acting against? Are we acting against the interest of the country? I'm not saying pro or con on Brexit. What I am saying is that there is evidence that we're doing rather well out of it, thank you. Will we continue? Well, only the future can tell. But certainly, the papers are right. It has given a boost to pro-Brexiteers. That in fact, we are flourishing, I suppose, under a Brexit, despite what the doomsayers say. And incidentally, all the predictions that were made about Brexit it just shows how susceptible and how weak the forecasts are when they're made with very limited data to help them. Is everybody who is anti-Brexit has forecast that we'd be on our knees by now. Apparently, far from it. And the boost, its last quarter anyway, have been quite substantial. I've been in double figures increase in some instances. So that's a boost for the UK economy. And the Star, the only paper that relates to the storm, which was pretty vicious on the other evening, on Saturday, in fact. Beautiful today. But here we blow again. It says that there are 4 more storms about to batter with up to 70 mile per hour winds. And if it's anything to go by, it's not pleasant. I got caught outside a little bit, just in actually the warm-up to it, the early winds, and that told me enough to hunker down and stay indoors until such time as it had blown itself out. And here we go again. It looks as if 4 more storms are going to be very disruptive. If you're thinking of going on the ferry or something of the sort, I would think twice, because unless you just love being in the perfect storm, you're in for trouble. So those are the main headlines that have nothing to do with Hamas, other marches, and the cenotaph. What we have is a variety of stories about trade. There are a couple of lurid stories about sex attacks. The Hamas, what's happening in Gaza, and what's likely to happen in London on the weekend is makes the biggest focus. Those stories that I've just read out are the exception to the rule, where editors see things rather differently. Okay, we're going to France in a minute or two, so I've got to prepare for that. We'll say toodle pip for 10 minutes, and then we'll be back with Harry Aston. Let's see. The one that I can never find. Never mind. There it is. Pops up just when you least expect.